Let me ask you something. How many times have you said, "I'll do it tomorrow," tomorrow to apologize, tomorrow to apply, tomorrow to pray, tomorrow to start, but tomorrow keeps moving, and the opportunity, it's still standing there waiting, not chasing you, not begging you, just waiting for you to reach out. See, here's the truth most people don't want to hear. Nobody is coming to save you. That job won't call itself. That dream won't chase you. That healing won't happen while you stay quiet. Comfort is dangerous not because it feels bad, but because it feels good. It wraps itself around you quietly, like a familiar blanket, convincing you that where you are is good enough. Comfort doesn't scream, it whispers. It tells you that you've done enough, that you've tried hard enough, that you deserve rest even when you haven't truly begun. And before you realize it, days turn into years, and potential turns into regret. Comfort doesn't steal your dreams overnight. It steals them slowly, politely, while you're busy convincing yourself that there's still time. The problem with comfort is that it removes urgency. When you're comfortable, there's no pressure to move, no fire to push you forward, no reason to risk failure. You stop stretching, stop learning, stop asking difficult questions. Growth requires friction, and comfort removes friction completely. It teaches you to stay where you are instead of stepping into who you could become. And the scariest part, comfort makes stagnation feel like stability, so you don't even realize you're stuck until you look back and wonder why nothing changed. Comfort also feeds fear in subtle ways. It tells you that trying and failing would be worse than not trying at all. It convinces you that rejection is too painful, that criticism is too heavy, that disappointment is something to be avoided at all costs. So you choose safety over significance. You choose routine over risk. You choose familiar pain over unfamiliar growth. And every time you make that choice, comfort grows stronger while courage grows weaker, until reaching out feels unnatural and staying silent feels normal. History doesn't remember people who stayed comfortable. Progress has never been made by those who waited until conditions were perfect. Every breakthrough, every transformation, every great shift in a person's life happened when someone decided that comfort was too expensive. Because comfort always charges a price: unused talent, unexplored ability, unspoken truth. You may feel at peace today, but deep down, there's a quiet dissatisfaction, an awareness that you were meant for more than repeating the same safe patterns day after day. Comfort also disconnects you from discipline. Discipline requires consistency, sacrifice, and effort when motivation disappears. Comfort says you can skip today, and today becomes a habit. It lowers your standards slowly, just enough that you don't notice the decline. What once felt unacceptable becomes tolerable. What once challenged you now feels exhausting, and when discipline fades, momentum dies, not because you aren't capable, but because comfort convinced you that effort was optional. The most dangerous lie comfort tells is that you'll move later, later when you feel ready, later when things calm down, later when you're more confident, more prepared, more secure. But later is not a promise, it's an illusion. Growth doesn't wait for convenience, and opportunity doesn't operate on your comfort schedule. While you're sitting still, life keeps moving. The moment you refuse to reach beyond comfort is the moment your potential pauses, suspended, waiting for you to decide that ease is no longer worth the cost. Silence often disguises itself as patience, humility, or wisdom, but make no mistake, silence is still a decision. Every time you choose not to speak, not to act, not to reach out, you are choosing something else instead. You are choosing comfort over clarity, safety over truth, and avoidance over responsibility. Silence feels passive, but it is active in its consequences. It shapes outcomes just as loudly as words do, because what you refuse to say allows situations to decide for you. Many people believe silence protects them. They think staying quiet will keep them from conflict, rejection, or embarrassment. But silence doesn't eliminate risk, it simply shifts the risk inward. The words you don't say don't disappear, they turn into pressure. They settle in your chest, your mind, your spirit, growing heavier with time. Silence becomes a weight you carry daily, and over time, it begins to affect how you see yourself. You start to question your worth, your courage, and your voice, not because you lacked something, but because you refused to use what you already had. Silence also trains people how to treat you. When you don't speak up, you teach others that your boundaries are flexible, your needs are negotiable, and your presence is optional. People don't ignore you by accident. They follow the rules you set through your silence. Each unspoken truth becomes permission for disrespect, misunderstanding, or neglect to continue. Silence doesn't preserve peace. It often preserves dysfunction. And while everything looks calm on the surface, underneath, resentment quietly builds. There is a cost to silence that shows up later, often when it's too late. Opportunities pass by not because you weren't capable, but because no one knew you were willing. Relationships weaken not because there was no love, but because there was no communication. Growth stalls not because you lacked potential, but because you never asked, never applied, never knocked. Silence creates distance between who you are and who you could have been, and that distance widens with every moment you choose quiet over courage. Fear is usually the reason silence feels easier. Fear of being wrong, fear of being judged, fear of being exposed, but fear thrives in silence. The longer you stay quiet, the louder fear becomes, convincing you that your voice doesn't matter or that speaking up will only make things worse. In reality, silence gives fear control. The moment you speak, fear loses some of its power because action interrupts imagination and truth breaks the cycle of overthinking. Silence is not neutral. It always sides with something. It sides with delay, with doubt, with stagnation. It allows problems to grow unchecked and opportunities to expire unnoticed. When you don't reach out, you are still choosing an outcome, just not the one you consciously want. Life responds to movement, not intention. And when you remain silent, life doesn't pause, it moves forward without you, carrying possibilities that were waiting for your voice, your effort, your decision to finally speak. Fear is not something you defeat once and never see again. Fear is something that shows up every time you step toward growth, every time you choose uncertainty over familiarity, every time you decide to reach beyond what you already know. The mistake people make is waiting for fear to disappear before they move. They tell themselves they'll act when they feel confident, ready, or brave. But fear doesn't leave on its own. It stays, watching, waiting to see whether you will let it stop you or walk forward anyway. Most people misunderstand courage. They believe courageous people don't feel fear, when in reality, courageous people feel fear more clearly than anyone else. They just don't let it make their decisions. Fear speaks in questions. What if you fail? What if they laugh? What if you lose? And if you listen too long, those questions turn into walls. But fear is not a signal to stop. It's a signal that something meaningful is ahead. The presence of fear often means you are standing at the edge of growth, not danger. Walking with fear requires discipline, not motivation. Motivation fades, especially when fear is loud and the outcome is uncertain. Discipline is what keeps you moving when your emotions argue against you. It's choosing action even when your heart is racing and your mind is filled with doubt. Each step taken with fear beside you weakens its control. Fear never disappears, but it does shrink when it realizes it no longer decides your direction. Fear also lies about timing. It tells you now is not the right moment, that you need more preparation, more confidence, more reassurance. It convinces you that waiting is wisdom, when in reality, waiting is avoidance. Growth rarely announces itself with certainty. Opportunities often arrive before you feel ready, because readiness is built through movement, not waiting. Fear wants you to believe that perfection is required before action, but progress only requires willingness. One of fear's greatest tricks is making discomfort feel dangerous. It blurs the line between emotional unease and actual harm, convincing you that discomfort must be avoided. But discomfort is the price of expansion. Every skill you admire, every strength you respect, was developed through repeated moments of discomfort. Fear wants to protect you from embarrassment, failure, and vulnerability. But in doing so, it also protects you from progress, depth, and transformation. Learning to walk with fear means accepting that confidence is not the starting point. It is the result. Confidence grows after you act, not before. Each time you move despite fear, you gather evidence of your own capability. You prove to yourself that fear can ride along without driving. And over time, fear becomes less of a barrier and more of a companion, reminding you that what you're doing matters enough to be uncomfortable, enough to be worth the risk. Faith is often misunderstood as belief without effort, but real faith has weight to it. It demands movement. It is easy to say you believe in something when nothing is required of you. It is much harder to act when the outcome is uncertain and the path is unclear. Faith that stays in the mind is comfortable, but faith that lives in action is costly. It requires you to step forward without guarantees, trusting that movement itself will reveal what standing still never could. Intentions are silent promises we make to ourselves, and too many lives are built on intentions that were never acted upon. You can intend to change, intend to grow, intend to reach out, but intention without action is just imagination. Faith begins where excuses end. It shows itself not in what you hope for, but in what you do when hope feels fragile. Action is the language of faith, and without it, belief remains incomplete, unrealized, and untested. Faith is proven in uncertainty, not clarity. When everything makes sense, action is easy. But faith is required when logic cannot guarantee success, when effort might not be rewarded immediately, and when results are delayed. That's when action becomes an act of trust. You move not because you see the whole staircase, but because you trust the next step. And every step taken in uncertainty strengthens belief far more than standing still ever could. Waiting is often disguised as wisdom, but many times it is simply fear wearing a respectable mask. People say they are waiting for a sign, when in reality the sign is the opportunity already in front of them. Faith does not wait for perfect conditions. It moves with imperfect information. It understands that clarity follows commitment, not the other way around. When you act in faith, you create momentum, and momentum has a way of revealing doors that hesitation keeps hidden. Action also refines faith. When you move, you learn. When you try, you adjust. Faith grows sharper through experience, not speculation. Each action teaches you something about your strength, your resilience, and your ability to adapt. Without action, faith stays theoretical. unproven, and fragile, but when tested through effort, it becomes durable, capable of surviving disappointment, delay, and resistance. There is risk in action, but there is also risk in stillness. Faith recognizes that doing nothing is still a decision, one that slowly erodes confidence and dulls purpose. Action may expose you to failure, but inaction guarantees stagnation. Faith chooses movement not because success is assured, but because growth demands participation. And every time you act despite uncertainty, you declare that belief is not just something you feel, it is something you live. What you receive in life is deeply connected to what you are willing to reach for. Many people spend years waiting for results without ever extending themselves beyond what is familiar. They hope for change while repeating the same actions, expecting a different outcome. But life does not respond to desire alone. It responds to effort, initiative, and risk. If your reach is small, your results will be small, not because life is unfair, but because opportunity moves in proportion to your willingness to stretch. Reaching requires vulnerability. The moment you extend your hand, you expose yourself to rejection, disappointment, or failure. And that exposure is exactly what most people try to avoid. They protect themselves by keeping expectations low and actions limited. But in protecting themselves from loss, they also protect themselves from gain. Nothing meaningful comes without the risk of being denied. The act of reaching is an admission that you want more, and wanting more demands the courage to ask, apply, attempt, and step forward. There is a difference between hoping and reaching. Hope is passive, it waits for circumstances to change. Reaching is active, it creates change. You can hope for a better future indefinitely, but reaching forces you into the present moment, where effort matters. Reaching turns ideas into actions and dreams into responsibilities. The moment you reach, you accept that the outcome is no longer hypothetical. It becomes personal, real, and demanding. Many people underestimate how close they are to what they want. Opportunities are often just beyond comfort, not beyond capability. But comfort shortens reach. It convinces you that what you have is enough, even when your potential says otherwise. When you don't reach, you don't just miss opportunities. You reinforce a habit of limitation. Over time, you begin to believe that what's out of reach was never meant for you, when in reality, you simply never extended yourself far enough. Reaching also builds strength, regardless of the outcome. Even when you don't receive what you reached for, the act itself changes you. It builds resilience, confidence, and clarity. You learn what works, what doesn't, and where you need to grow. Each attempt stretches your capacity, making the next reach stronger and more intentional. Reaching trains you to engage with life instead of observing it from a safe distance. Life rewards movement, not comfort. Doors open to those who knock, not to those who wait near, by hoping they will open on their own. The reach itself signals readiness, not perfection, not certainty, but willingness. When you reach, you align yourself with possibility. And while there are no guarantees in what you will receive, there is one certainty. If you never reach, you will never receive anything beyond what you already have. Moments rarely announce themselves as life, changing when they arrive. They come quietly, disguised as ordinary chances, uncomfortable conversations, unexpected responsibilities, or decisions you feel unprepared to make. This is how opportunity moves. It doesn't wait for applause or certainty. It shows up while you are busy, distracted, or doubting yourself. Asking a simple question without words. Will you respond, or will you hesitate? The knock is subtle, but the consequences of ignoring it are not. Every moment carries weight. whether you acknowledge it or not. Some moments are doors and others are deadlines. The difference is determined by your response. When you delay, the moment doesn't pause, it passes. And when it passes, it often takes something with it: momentum, confidence, or access to a path that may not return in the same form. Opportunities are patient only for a season, and hesitation is often mistaken for preparation when it is actually resistance. The knock you hear now is not random. It is shaped by everything you have experienced up to this point: your skills, your struggles, your lessons. Moments arrive when you are capable of responding, even if you don't feel ready. Readiness is emotional, capability is real. Most people wait until their emotions align with the demand of the moment, but life does not operate on emotional alignment. It operates on action, and action often comes before confidence catches up. Ignoring the moment trains you to ignore yourself. Each time you feel the pull to act and choose not to, you weaken your trust in your own instincts. Over time, you become disconnected from your sense of timing and intuition. The knock becomes quieter, not because opportunity stops coming, but because you have practiced not answering. This disconnection is subtle, but it shapes how you show up, or fail to show up, when it matters most. Responding to the moment does not guarantee immediate success. Answering the knock may lead to challenge, resistance, or uncertainty, but it also leads to alignment. When you act in the moment, you step into motion, and motion clarifies direction. You learn faster, adjust quicker, and grow stronger. The moment rewards engagement, not perfection. What matters is not how confidently you answer, but that you answer at all. The present moment is the only place where change can occur. The past is fixed, and the future is imagined, but now is active. When the knock comes, it is asking for presence, not promises. It is asking you to step forward without knowing everything, trusting that movement will create understanding. And while the moment does not wait forever, it does wait long enough for you to decide whether you will open the door or remain on the other side, listening as the sound fades. So don't wait for another sign. Don't wait for permission. Don't wait for the perfect version of yourself to arrive. Everything you need to begin is already within reach. What you've been praying for, hoping for, preparing for, it's not lost. It's not ignoring you. It's not running from you. It's standing right there, waiting for your courage, waiting for your movement, waiting for your decision. Because the truth is simple and undeniable. The door doesn't open from the outside. He is waiting for you to reach out,